I've been thinking about the difference between like a research design, a research method, and like data collection tools for weeks now. Because I see a lot of videos about research methods that are actually talking about types of research design. And then I was working with a doc student who was confused because of this like very issue. Because if you start grouping research design into research methods with data collection tools, people feel like they can only pick like one or two. And actually, they're like completely different buckets, and you can choose something or more than one something from each one of the buckets. So here is my go at a different way of thinking about this. Research design. I think about this as like, what do you want to be able to say? Because how you design your study is going to greatly influence what you get to say at the end. So there's descriptive, like I just want to be able to describe how things are. There's correlational. I want to be able to talk about the relationship between two or more things. There is experimental. I want to be able to talk about cause and effect. There is quasi-experimental, which is I want to be able to talk about cause and effect, but I can't do a true experiment. And then I'm going rogue here, and I would put meta-analysis up here, which is I'm actually just going to look at all the studies that everyone else has done and synthesize their findings for you. Because what I want to be able to say is like what the field as a whole has learned. Okay? Design choices. Then there are methods. To me, simple. Methods, quantitative, qualitative, mixed, which would be qualitative and quantitative. That's it. Those are your methods. Within each of those methods, then I would say there are data collection types or like tools, surveys, interviews, focus groups, observation, artifacts. I would put ethnography in there because that like is so different than doing an interview or an observation, because like you are the instrument, you are embedded into another society, subset of society. When you hear people talking about longitudinal or cross-sectional, that to me like timeline. Are you collecting your data over time, or are you collecting it about a bunch of people at one point in time? Good information to share, good information to think about, but like just think of that as like timeline. That's not a method, that's not a tool, that's just like timeline. And then when you hear people do things like descriptive, exploratory, explanatory, that's just like explaining the purpose of your research. And I actually hate those categories and don't find them very useful. Because really, those things, this exploratory, explanatory, whatnot, those all actually fit under research design. Explanatory would be quasi-experimental or experimental, right? Like we don't need to like slice things so thin and make them all these different groupings. We're way overcomplicating this. Thoughts, method I missed that you're like, what is this? Because I genuinely like, I'm trying to build a better framework for this because it's just so frustrating.